school. It can be heated at best, and now the Islamic faith may be at the center of some arguments. Now, according to a new report, it was published in USA Today, some schools are granting Muslim requests for prayer time, even building in ritual foot baths. So would this be a violation of the separation of church and state? Let's find out. Joining me now, the president and chief counsel for the Thomas More Law Center, Richard Thompson, communications director for the Muslim Public Affairs Council, Adina Lekovich, and assistant communications director for Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, Rob Boston. Thank you all for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, let me go to you first. Is there anything wrong with creating accommodations for Muslims to pray in our schools here in America?
Well, right now it is. It violates the Supreme Court decisions starting way back in 1962 when Christians were forbidden from praying in public schools. In fact, as you may know, you can't even have a time of silence for prayer or meditation. They stop prayers at graduations. They stop prayers at football games. And all at once, the public school in California, Carver Elementary, decides that they can allow Muslim students to pray during school time, even being led by some teacher. I'm not sure whether she's an instructor or an outside person. My concern is this: we have a double standard, one for Muslims and the other for Christians and other religions. If you're going to have prayer in schools, then you better have prayer for Christians and you better have prayers for Jews and other religious people.
Okay.
So my question is one of fairness and a level playing field, and stop this double standard.
All right, let's be fair and balanced. Adina, are Muslims advocating for special privileges that students of other religions are not getting?
Absolutely not. It would be a huge disservice to all Americans if there was school-sanctioned prayer, no matter which religion was being represented here. Schools have a responsibility to provide the opportunity for students to take care of their religious obligations, but it certainly shouldn't be school-sanctioned. The idea here of this school creating a entire recess period simply for Muslim prayer is not something that that I think most Muslims even support. It's, you know, like in other situations, and what the district's attorney has even concluded here is that what the law accommodates for is for these students to be able to have a club and to be able to meet on their own time, but it shouldn't certainly happen as a matter of school policy.
Rob, do you think this idea is reasonable, though?
What we seek is accommodation of religion in the public schools, not facilitating it. And I think that the analysis given by Mr. Thompson is a little inaccurate. Voluntary prayer in school is perfectly legal. Students can pray during lunch period, they can pray during their free time, they can read religious books. But we don't want that directed by school officials or required or mandated or anything coercive like that.
Okay,
as long as we stay away from that, we'll be okay.
So then foot baths, for example.
Julie,
but foot baths, I mean, okay, so we're talking voluntary prayer is what Rob just said, Richard. Where do foot baths fall into all of that?
Well,
Adina, maybe you can explain. Sure. I want to hear from her because I don't understand exactly how it works.
Let's start with what it is exactly. Because for Muslims who pray, they wash their hands and feet and face before they go into prayer. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Now, the idea of Muslims needing special foot baths in schools or in public places is absolutely not required in any way. I don't have a foot bath at home, and I certainly wouldn't expect there to be one in another place. Now, if a university or some sort of public facility seeks to provide that as a courtesy, then that's certainly their right. But we're not pushing for any sort of universal foot bath.
Okay. So Richard, you're saying this is not
a central issue in any way.
What Rob was saying about this being voluntary, you disagree?
No, it's absolutely. Let's look at the facts of Carver Elementary School. They had a special period. They went into a special class. Only Muslims were involved, and they were led in a prayer. That is totally unconstitutional right now. If you're going to do that, that's fine.
No
but you better allow other religions to do that. Now, I appreciate the comments about foot baths, because as I understand it, for generations we've had Muslim people here in the United States, and they've been able to get along in the public school system without all of these special demands being made. And I'm concerned right now that these special demands are being made by certain groups that are using our idea
All
of
right.
accommodation to get political action on these campuses,
Okay.
and it's wrong.
I've
Well,
got about 30 seconds. Adina, real quick, and then Rob, I got a
Right.
quick question for you.
I think that what we should be promoting, I mean, what the law promotes, the Equal Access Act, which was signed in 1984,
All right.
promotes that clubs and groups should be able to meet on equal terms, whether they're religious or not religious.
Okay.
And you know, and the school has to work out the details here.
All right. Is this a separation of church and state? I have to go. Yes or no, Rob?
I think that this can be resolved easily by remembering the voluntary principle,
All right.
not having anything coercive.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. That's all the time we have. Rob Boston and all of you, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, Saudi Arabia and other